Several years ago, in the land of Portage, a boy was born. This boy was like any other boy, except his brain contained a hidden world. This world, his mind, housed many friendly and happy citizens. They grew as he did, unknowing of the world outside, yet affected by it, just as the boy was affected by them. As his young boy grew into a young man, he developed a stutter. This stutter was not a very big deal, at least to him, but with this stutter came the creatures of silence. These creatures of silence came to the mind from the unexplored land, undeveloped parts of the mind that have never been accessed by anybody. These creatures resembled men, yet their heads were covered by a giant helmet. This helmet had trumpets on the side, and when played, these trumpets silenced everything in the mind, causing the boy outside to either be unable to speak or to have his words flow too quickly for him to be understood. These creatures quickly took over most of the mind, blowing their horns whenever they came across a resident. The boy learned on his own to deal with this problem. By concentrating, he was able to keep his speech under control. The residents of the mine learned to hide from the creatures of silence, and for a time there was peace. However, as the boy grew, the monsters also grew. They became more and more powerful, playing their horns more and more frequently as the years went on. The boy fought back against his own speech as best he could, but soon it became too much for him to handle alone. He struggled through social situations, barely able to speak, and his anxiety only fed the creatures. Desperate, the boy went to seek help. There was a speech therapist that specialized in this particular problem, and the boy started seeing him. The therapist helped the boy recognize when he was having problems and to be able to focus, thus blocking the creature's advance. This led to the creation of the subconscious. The subconscious was a mental protector, a fighter of monsters. However, the subconscious was unable to slay any of the creatures as it was still too weak. The boy kept going to the therapist, and the subconscious started training. For years, the subconscious trained in secret, and eventually was able to fight back against the creatures of silence. The boy moved on with his life, but the therapist could not go with him. Unable to professionally continue his training, the stutter got worse, and the monsters got stronger. The monsters started multiplying. Soon dozens became hundreds. In the mess of the new monsters, they morphed into these horrible, powerful creatures. Soon, the boy was barely able to speak at all, but the tools given to the boy from the therapist gave the subconscious the power to fight back against these new, powerful monsters.
In this grave hour, I send to every household of my peoples this message. Spoken with the same depth of feeling for each one of you, as if I were able to cross your threshold and to speak for myself. For the second time in the lives of most of us, we are at war. Over and over again, we have tried to find a peaceful way out of the differences between ourselves, our enemies. We have been forced into a conflict. Such a principle, stripped of all disguise, is surely the mere primitive doctrine that might is right. With God's help, we shall prevail.
And in the end, the subconscious was able to fight back the evil, and the monsters transformed back into their original form. Amongst the bodies of their fallen, the evil retreated back into the unexplored lands. Although not destroyed, the evil was dramatically weakened, no longer a threat to the subconscious or any of the other residents of the mind. There were still reports of the monster's horn, but the boy was able to overcome his troubles and talk normally. The subconscious continued his hunt for the monsters, but the residents of the mind and the boy were able to live happily ever after.